Michael loves to travel. He stays for a few days trying out the local cuisine and chatting with the locals to learn about their customs. This year, he booked an early flight to Japan. It's a fantastic country that Michael really appreciates. He enjoys exploring new and unfamiliar cities on his own during his time off. Even though he's been there multiple times, each visit offers a unique experience that keeps him coming back. This time, he chose a little town that wasn't very well known. He reserved a hotel and planned to spend a few days close by to unwind from everyday exhaustion. During the first couple of days, Michael's holiday was similar to his past ones. During the day, he toured around the town, acquired some local delicacies, and sampled some street food. When he was weary, he headed back to the lodging to soak in the hot springs and converse with the proprietor. Despite few foreign visitors, the hotel owner spoke English well, and Michael was able to understand him easily. Michael gained some introductory knowledge about the town from their conversation. The owner shared that the town is situated by the sea with a charmingly picturesque landscape. Lots of TV programs and films were recorded in this location, particularly featuring the level crossings for trains along the shore, which are prevalent locally. He recommended a visit, if time permits, to take additional pictures as a keepsake. Subsequently, Michael inquired about the general direction with the hotel proprietor and embarked on his journey with his camera the following day. The hotel he lodged in was located on a path adjacent to the Sizida roadway with access to numerous distinguished level crossings. When a train goes past, you can hear the dang-dang-dang warning sound from far away. Mikhail walked a while and reached the level crossing. From one side of the track, he can see the sea calmly lying there. On the rippling blue sea, there are dots of sails and seagulls circling back and forth in the sky. There are also busy crowds on the ground and trains roaring past occasionally. All these elements seem to intertwine in a splendid view. Michael knows why this place is so famous. It's a fantastic location for filming. Of course, Michael was very interested in this scene. He took out his camera and took many pictures to capture those moments forever. As time went by, Michael's mind became hazy. He felt like he was being summoned, and he started moving forward involuntarily. Before he knew it, he was in the middle of the railway tracks. Suddenly, he stood in the middle of the railway line with no plan to move. The danger of Michael's situation was clear. Waiting for the train to arrive would surely cause an accident. People nearby noticed Michael's odd actions and began shouting to warn him. However, Michael appeared entirely unresponsive to all surrounding noises. It was only after hearing several bell-tolling sounds that Michael gradually regained consciousness. Still in a trance, Michael vaguely recognized an old man, dressed as a monk, standing not far away and approaching him with a smile. The elderly man held a walking stick, adorned with several metal rings that made those warning sounds, which Michael had just heard. Suddenly, the old man vanished and Michael became fully alert. He glanced around and realized his predicament. Without pondering why he was there, he promptly moved away from the railway tracks. After calming down, Michael didn't dare to stay any longer and hurried back to his hotel. The next morning, he shared his frightening experience with the hotel owner, who was left amazed. Regarding the monk dressed in old attire mentioned by Michael, the owner stated that he did not know the identity of the elderly man. However, he agreed to join Michael to explore the only temple in town in the hopes of finding answers. With no delay, the two arrived at the temple on the same day. Without having a chance to express their intentions, the monk welcomed them and led them to the eldest monk residing in the temple. When Michael saw the old monk, he recognized him immediately. The old man was the one dressed in monk's robes from the previous day. The old monk smiled and nodded, confirming that it was indeed him whom Michael saw before. With the help of the hotel owner acting as a translator, Michael understood the whole story in detail. It transpires that this train line has a long and eventful history, with many accidents occurring during its initial construction phase. From time to time, people would inexplicably pass through the guardrail and come to the center of the track. In most cases, they will be discovered and stopped by their peers, but there are also several times where it is quite dangerous and almost leads to accidents. Upon careful observation of the whole area, he discovered that the train line, specifically the level crossings, had an unusual negative effect on people born on particular years and dates due to the town's feng shui. These circumstances could lead to tragic consequences. For years, the old monk has resided in this town, keeping watch over it and helping those who were affected. However, Michael realized that he too was among the group of people the monk was referring to. Noting Michael's perplexed expression, the monk acknowledged that cross-cultural disparities made certain things difficult to comprehend. The words spoken by the old monk were bewildering to Michael, a foreign visitor. Upon parting ways, the monk bestowed an amulet upon Michael. He advised Michael that it's better not to visit remote locations solo when traveling in the future. As a visitor, he desires to explore the uncharted territories there. In case he has to do so, he should take along this amulet. He pondered over it, imagining the hidden gems in Japan, the mystical Oriental country. The vacation's end was near. Michael boarded the return flight holding the amulet in his hands. In case he has to do so, he should take along this amulet. It would guard him against excessive danger. Michael and some of his friends like to visit some of the countries in Southeast Asia because of the beautiful scenery, different customs, and delicious food. The key is that the cost is very low. In the middle of this year, they took their annual holiday together and came to Bali for a short stay. During the day, they sometimes go shopping and sometimes swim in the hotel pool. When they are tired, they lie down by the pool to bask in the sun and read a book for a while. What a classic holiday. In the evenings, of course, the activities are very exciting. They often go to one of the local bars, they'll order a few cocktails or beers, chat to people they know and people they don't, and if they're feeling hot, they'll hit the dance floor to twist and sweat. They usually drink until the early hours of the morning, and then go back to their hotel rooms to get some sleep. One night they arranged to go to the bar of the hotel where they were staying for a drink and a bite to eat, and then later to a local bar. Having had a bit too much to drink the night before and sleeping until 6 in the evening, Michael still felt a bit groggy, so he declined the offer and wanted to rest alone in his room for a while, waiting for his friends to leave for the nearby bar. Sitting alone in the living room of his hotel room, Michael watched the television with great interest. Although he did not understand the content of the program, he found it interesting because of the exaggerated body language of some of the actors. After about an hour of this, Michael looked at his watch and realized that it was getting late, so he was about to go out to meet his friends. Just as Michael raised to the remote control in his hand to turn off the television, a strange thing happened. He noticed that no matter how many times he pressed the on-off button on the remote, the TV never responded. At first he thought the remote had been out of battery, but when he tried to change the channel or adjust the volume, there was nothing abnormal except that the on-off button had lost its function. He tried several times and thought maybe the switch button was broken. He got up, ready to ignore the TV and go straight out. At this point, the TV picture suddenly changed and became a kind of surveillance image. It was of a room with a television on the wall. There was a person standing in front of the TV with his back to the camera. Another person with long hair was standing under the camera. The long-haired woman in the bathrobe also had her back to the camera. He recognized at a glance that it was him in front of the TV screen, and the fact that there was another person in his room shocked him. And when he turned his head and looked at the position where the camera should have been, he saw nothing. He turned back to look at the TV screen again, confirming once more that it was indeed his room on the screen. An inexplicable shiver ran down his spine. Michael tried to change the channel and everything was fine. But just as he was about to leave the room while the TV was showing content from other channels, the TV cut back to the picture it had just shown without warning, and this time, the camera lens in the picture was pointing down. After a few turns, it was now pointed directly at the back of the long-haired woman's head. Gradually, the long-haired woman seemed to feel that the camera behind her was pointing at her. Her body trembled, and keeping her body straight ahead, she slowly turned her head. Because her hair covers most of her face from the side, even though she has turned her head to an angle that's difficult for ordinary people to reach, her face is still not visible from directly behind. This makes the whole scene extremely strange and frightening. Michael desperately held his breath and looked at the TV screen. He could not move. Just as he was about to see the profile of the long-haired woman, there was a knock on the door and the shouts of his friends. Michael suddenly woke up and was surprised to find that he could move again. He rushed to open the door and let his friends in. After a brief description of what had just happened, his friends searched the room several times, including the TV and remote control. They found no cameras, and the TV and its remote were not broken. They began to tease Michael. They all agreed that all this was the inconvenience of a hangover, and the best way to deal with it was to have another hangover. Michael was dragged out of the room in a daze, followed by his friends. They went to the bar. Early the next morning, the group returned to the hotel. Michael, thinking about what he had experienced the night before, did not dare go back to his room alone. He spent the next few days sleeping on the sofa in his friend's room. Although several months have passed since the incident and they have left Indonesia and returned to their hometown, Michael still feels a little frightened when he thinks back to the experience of that night. He dared not imagine what would happen if his friend was late. What kind of image would appear before his eyes in a few minutes?